Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Caldwell County Department of Social Services Board meeting. Today is Tuesday, August 30th. It's 5 o'clock, and we're here in the Out in East Orange building. I'd like to get our meeting started this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. Let Mr. Will Wakefield lead us in that. And then we're going to ask Mr. Jeff Lambert, the Director of Ministry for Union Grove Baptist Church, to lead us in our invocation.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jeff, you come up to the podium and say a nice prayer for us and get us through this evening. Need all the prayer we can get, buddy.
Amen. Privilege to be here. I have had the privilege of being asked by Brother Johnny Green to do invocations there in Sawmills, and I miss him so terribly. Great guy, and so I always enjoy coming and being part of these meetings. With that said, we'll pray. Father God, thank you, Lord, for the privilege and honor of prayer. I thank you for the honor of being here to give the invocation for this body. I pray that they would lean upon you for their guidance and their wisdom as they try their best to use the resources that they have and that they've been extended by the folks to help the people in need. And so, Lord, we just ask your protection upon them. We ask that you'd give them all that they need to make these good decisions, the best decisions that they can. And Lord, we thank you that we do have the opportunity to be used of you to help people. And I know that's why they're here. We ask your blessings upon them, and we ask these things in Jesus' name and for his sake. Amen.
Amen.
God bless you.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you taking the time to do that this evening. You're welcome to stay if you'd like, or you can leave if you got something else to do. Have a good one, my friend. See you soon. All right, next on our agenda is need approval for need to approve the agenda and find out if there's any amendments first. Any amendments? Okay, didn't think so. So I need a motion to approve the agenda as it is.
I make a motion to approve as is.
Need a second?
A second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion carries. Now we need approval, a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
All right. Second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. I've dreaded this moment all week. I've tried my best to discuss it and see if I could get this gentleman to change his mind, but sounds like to me his wife has a different agenda for him. So I think if I could figure out a way to get them divorced, Mike could keep him. But then they've been together for many, many years, so probably not a chance of that happening. So tonight we are here to recognize Mitch Laws, who's over our child support division, and recognize him in his retirement. And bittersweet. We're very thankful for the service to our county and to our country when you're in the military. But we also understand that there comes a time in one's life that he wants to go do something else. And after many, many years and servicing the DSS and chasing these people all over the country for child support, probably comes a time where you want to go try something else. So we'd like to turn it over to Mr. Wakefield to tell us a little bit about Mitch Laws and what he's accomplished in our division and department.
Mitch, we got to get him in front of the camera here so folks can see him. But yes,
Stand up, Mitch. Oh, never mind. He is. Sorry.
As Donnie said, it is certainly bittersweet. Mitch has been with us for 24 years. And Mitch started out in child support. I think you had two supervisors for a few years, and then Mitch became the supervisor, and he has supervised our child support team for a long time. And so our child support folks They're struggling too. That team has had the same leadership for many years now, and so we certainly hate to see Mitch go, but we also understand, and we congratulate him, and we hope we can join him at some point in the not too distant future. But Mitch has done an excellent job in child support, and our county's child support unit has been one of the best in the state for many, many years. And I'm not just saying that because, I'm biased towards that. I'm saying that because that is the truth, and that's known across the state. Child support is one of those programs that has a lot of criteria to it. There's a lot of grading within how are you doing, your time frames, all of this kinds of stuff. And we always meet and exceed those criteria for our county. And so that is due to Mitch and his team and the leadership that he has provided. So we will certainly miss that. Along with that, though, what I will say is that, with good leadership, you also end up with a good team that can carry on, when you're not there. And so I think we have that in our child support team, and that's something that Mitch has helped to build. And so we certainly appreciate him and what he's done, and not just for what he's done at the agency, but for what he's done around the community. I've enjoyed getting to know Mitch for many years now. It seems like just a blink of an eye. I think we were out there, it seems like not too long ago, out at lunch. We used to go play basketball somewhere, and then Chris would even that was a long time ago when we were all younger, and we didn't get hurt. We didn't get hurt so easily. But I've enjoyed getting to know Mitch, and he's not just good at his job, but he's a good person. And if there's something you need, he'll help you out with it. I've always said whenever we've done our cookouts and all those things, Mitch has helped me haul I don't know how many grills, how many times, but he's just one of those folks who, if you're in need, he will help you out, and he's certainly done a good job at the agency, and he's done that for his staff as well. So we will miss Mitch and the work that he's done, and we will miss that historical knowledge, even though he's been trying to pass that on to his staff as much as he can. And tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock over the agency, we will have a recognition for Mitch. And so if you're able to, come by and say hello and pick up some food. Obviously, there'll be food there.
Are you making him carry the grill?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to make him carry the grill?
One last time?
One last time?
Yes. No, we're not going to make him carry any grills. But we will be recognizing him tomorrow afternoon, and so if you have a chance to swing by, then please do that. But Mitch, we appreciate the work that you've done, and we will certainly miss you. Hope you come back around from time to time. And if there's anything you'd like to say, we'd love to.
Just thank you guys. You guys have a great group of individuals that will take this and carry it on. So I look forward to my retirement, but you've got some good people there. There's a good core group of people that'll take the program and keep excelling. So we'll miss the people a lot. So.
Well, I can tell you that for any deadbeat dad out there who's a mom that's actually watching, don't think just because Mitch is leaving that you're off the hook, because we got somebody that's just as good, or maybe better, is taking his place. So
yes.
I know that there might be some dads out there that are probably glad to see you retire.
Well, maybe.
But
there's a good one coming behind me.
That's right. I will tell you
done
that
it for a long time.
just for the board members who maybe not know Mitch, I've known Mitch probably close to, 15, 16 years maybe.
Oh.
And Mitch used to coach baseball, umpire baseball, pretty much every night through the week, just about. I mean, every time I went to a ball game with my son, he was there.
Yeah.
So not only has he given back in the DSS, he's given back to our community quite a bit. And sometimes we forget all the things that an individual does outside of the work that they do every day. So I appreciate what you've done, not only for the agency, but what you've done for our county and giving back to youth sports and all the things you've done in that area too, because I know that was a big passion of yours. And
right.
so thank you for that, and also thank you for your service to the military. We're going. You ain't gonna go far. I know where you live.
Right.
Yep.
We'll still see you, but
Yeah.
my guess is he ain't gonna be retired long, guys, because his wife's gonna keep him pretty busy, I'd say.
Well, I'm not retiring, not
Right.
to work. I'm just,
Yeah.
I'll still have to work. But,
Well, we may end up seeing him backwards over. You don't ever.
you may.
But thank you again for Mitch for all you've done, my friend.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Next is going to be in our agenda's reports. Alternative work environment request. Mr. Will Wakefield, Director, and Kim Arnett, Program Administrator. Let y'all have the floor.
So I'll just start out. I know I sent out some information the other day. Excuse me. Just giving a little context to this conversation and alternative work environments. We weren't sure exactly what yet. We haven't decided what to call, how to title what we're talking about, but that was the best one we could come up with at the moment when we know we're not there yet in terms of our title. But so historically speaking, forever, our social work staff, and that's really what we're going to be focusing on at this point in time from an agency perspective. Our social work staff have always predominantly done work out in the field. And so that's doing home visits, going into facilities, going into schools, going over, obviously, to the courthouse, out in the community, just depending on what they needed to do with the families that they served. And so historically, they would go out into the field, and then they would come back to the office, and that's where they would do their paperwork, do their documentation, meetings, those types of things. And so up until the pandemic, that's basically, how we've done it. That's how we've had it required for our county. Now, it's certainly different in other businesses, and it's different in other counties. And so as we move through the pandemic, we realized that there are different ways that we can do business, and we think that there are also some things that we have learned from doing that, and that there are some positives from doing our business a little bit differently. And so what we wanted to do this evening was talk to you a little bit about what we would like to do that a little bit differently with our agency. And again, at this point in time, it's kind of a starting point. And so focusing with our social work program areas, which is our child welfare area and our adult services area, in working with those staff so that as they go out in the community, as they do their jobs, that there would be certain times and certain days where it would make sense for them as they go do their home visits and they go meet people out in the community, and then they come back and they do the other paperwork aspects of their jobs, their documentation, which there's a ton of documentation with our social work staff. That's just a big piece of what they have to do. That we would consider them, field-based, however you want to call that. But they could go back to they may go on a visit, they may go back to their home, they may finish up whatever work they need to do there, and be able to use that in a way that we think can help us be more flexible with our work, be more efficient in some ways, to help our staff manage some stress. We think there's some opportunity there to manage some stress that goes along with that, as well as a strategy to assist us with retention and attracting people who are already working out in other workforces where they do have that opportunity. So that's kind of the gist of what we're looking at. I've talked to Donald Duncan, our county manager, and he is in support of that, but he wanted us to kind of bring that before you. I know Donnie and I have had many conversations around, evaluating this as a tool that we could use to assist our staff. And so that's what we would like to do. We do know that we are awaiting and working through some technology changes that the county's going through, and we've got a lot of good things that are happening. But those things are getting put into place as we speak, and there's one or two of those that we were kind of waiting on, so that as we look at this process, that we wouldn't kind of have a start-stop type of issues. So that's what we wanted to talk about. And Kim, if you want to kind of add a little bit to that in terms of what we've been discussing and looking at with staff.
Yeah, so I'll just go over some of the basic kind of framework that we have discussed in regards to this kind of alternative work arrangement, so to speak. We know that, we are going to have in-office meetings, and those meetings will still be required for all staff to attend. And so what we have tried to do is look at what days maybe these meetings happen, and look at a breakdown of 2 mandatory in-office days on those days where those meetings are scheduled the most, and 3 flexible days where you can have that alternative work environment. That will be consistent. It's going to be consistent within the program areas, and so those days won't particularly change week to week. We are looking for those to be consistent. Because we still want to maintain that connection in the office with the team and with, even with other teams in the different program areas. Again, this is not going to change any of the responsibility our folks have with their families, with the other professionals in the community, with anything they need to do in order to comply with policy or protocols or statutes. We have court days, and so if it is one of the days that is going to be a kind of flexible work arrangement day, they're still going to be required to be at court. I mean, they're not going to be able to say, oh, well, today is my day that I'm in a different work environment. So they're still going to have to do those things. And so we know that, and I think everyone understands that. It was very similar during COVID. So we also talked about how when you are using those alternative work arrangements, you are not to expect that others in the office do things for you. That if you have to do things in the office, you can come in and do those things in the office. It's not that you can't come in on those other days. It's just those are your optional days to be in a different work environment. We are going to ask that people who are taking advantage of this flexibility, that they be consistent with it. So they're not, one week they're doing it and the next week they're not, or they decide that they're going to just change their schedule every week, because we need that consistency. And so we're going to be expecting them to do that, especially from the beginning, because again, this is a jumping off point. We have also talked about newer staff and how that's going to look. So while staff are in training, we've talked about that really depending on their experience and their training process. We do not see that being an option for them until at least 6 months, and most probably a year, because they're going to need more hands-on from their supervisor, more interaction with other staff. Now, if we get someone in who has a lot of experience from another agency, perhaps that may be more the 6-month mark. But we're looking at 6 months to a year before we're able to start that with a new staff person.
So Kim, does that mean then the supervisors will then be required to be there all the time as well?
Supervisors will be in office. Now,
always, so that will not be an option for them in any way.
Now, there are things that we can talk about as we go on, but I think, and what the feedback that I've gotten from a lot of the supervisors is, if we have this arrangement, then that honestly helps the productivity of the supervisor as well. Because the supervisor has a lot of things to do in their office as far as reading and checking files and reviewing things, and they have constant, I don't want to call them interruptions, because it is their job to do these things, but they have constant distractions because they have staff who are coming in a lot, talking to them a lot about cases. Sometimes things that aren't necessary to talk about at the moment, but they're there, and so they see and they want to go in and just chat about this case that something just happened, but it's not a crisis. And a lot of times as a supervisor, it's hard to say, we'll talk about that later, when you have your staff in front of you wanting to talk about this. And so I think it will also help, well, I know it will also help with their productivity. So I don't see that they're going to necessarily want that, but maybe, as we go, we may we may see that they need something as well. So we're certainly open to looking at that. Also, I'll say that we've talked about, in regards to performance, and we've talked about how we will definitely have to, and we did this during COVID, have ways to hold people accountable to what they need to be doing. And if we have any performance issues, then we will immediately discontinue that, that privilege. And they will be in office every day.
Yeah. And I'll just reiterate that, we're starting at a point now that it's probably fairly conservative in terms of how we're looking at it, but we want to be able to start and it succeed, and then we can, if there are other things we look at doing, we can kind of take some baby steps towards that. But, we want to make sure that it's a successful process. And again, we know that there are some IT changes that are coming that will also help support this. And we need to let some of those changes will be taking place soon, but then there's some others that are going to follow down the road. And so we want to get some of those under our belt, let the county get some of those under their belt, and then we'll be able to utilize some of those tools that will really, assist in some communication aspects of just being able to pop somebody up, right there. I mean, like you do now virtually, but some things that help us streamline that. And so, if you do need something from your supervisor and you're sitting there, working away on your documentation or whatever, you can, they can flip up right there and they're on your screen and y'all can have a discussion about something and then you can kind of go back to your work. But those are some things that are coming. And so we also want to give a little bit of time for some of that stuff to get completed. And we know, I'll say one more thing, we know our IT folks are, they're under a burden right now with some of these changes. And so the other thing we don't want to do is have a lot of additional work for them when they're
Right.
trying to get some of this stuff done for the whole county.
And I think those things, like Will said, those things are going to enhance, what we can do virtually. I think when we know through COVID that we could be just as productive or even more productive in some instances. So those things aren't necessarily required to be productive and efficient, but they will, as time goes, they will enhance, I think, those arrangements.
Kim, I know you said you spoke with supervisors. Have you put any feelers out with any of the other social workers just to see what their feedback is, or are you holding that back until the decision is made?
No, we have had lots of conversation, not necessarily at our initiation. A lot of they have initiated those conversations with us, saying, because we ask them what would make your job better, what would help your stress level, what would increase morale, what will help retention. And one of the things we've heard across the board, which is why we're talking about it today, is work from home really helped us. We have lots of them who said, I was so much more productive with work from home. It was so much less stressful. It just helped me so much. And so we've heard that over and over. And so when the work from home ended at the end of COVID, and we had to all go back to mandatory in office, we for a long time we just said, this is not an option, but then we really started just thinking more about it and hearing more from the social workers and the other staff, and just started doing some research with other counties, and we have found that most of the surrounding counties, this is an incentive, an option, something that they offer to their staff, and so we want to be able to do that for our staff too.
Well, I think, and as Will said, I've talked about this for, I don't know, year and a half, off and on. COVID changed our society and how we do things and how we look at things, and it showed us and taught us that there's a lot of things that we didn't think we could do, and when COVID hit, we had to learn how to do it, and now we're like, well, wait a minute, we can't do this. And work from home is, to me, it's a benefit. I've done it for 23 years, and when COVID hit, my company had over 10,000 employees. I don't remember the exact number, but we had over 10,000 employees. And within about 10 days, we had 99% of them working home. So, and we were as efficient, if not more efficient, than we were when we were in the office. Now some of us are back in some of our folks are back in the office now, but I do think that there's an opportunity to expand that as you learn. One thing that you will find out, and you probably already know, it takes a lot of self-discipline to work at home. And I challenge you to make sure that you're watching those efficiencies, because it's real easy for somebody to get sidetracked. It's not intentional. It's not,
Right.
For somebody gets sidetracked, but they get sidetracked.
Right.
But then on the flip side of that, I think as a mother, you
Well-
can think in the sense of your mind can be preoccupied with maybe a child that's at home or something going on at home, which if you can balance that and be home and work, you're going to be more productive.
That's where I was
Because you're
going.
not worried about
That's
that
where I
child.
was
That
going.
child's right there with you.
That's where I was
So
going with my
you know,
conversation. That's
yeah.
where I was going with my comment. That was the very next thing I was going to say is that we have found out that it's a great recruitment tool because of, especially for a single parent who has to get their kids off to school or has to be there when the school, when they get off the school bus or whatever it might be. And we see that as a huge recruitment tool, and I think it'll definitely help us. And I challenge you guys to continue to look for, areas where we can expand that when opportunity comes. I'm 100% supportive of it. I've talked about it for a while and have asked that y'all look into that, and I appreciate you doing it because I do think it's a nice thing, and it does take a lot of the stress off of our staff. And I mean, it makes no sense when they're in Grace Chapel talking to a family, and they live in Grace Chapel, but they got to come all the way back to Lenore
Yeah.
to do their work and then go back to Grace Chapel.
Yeah.
So I do think it'll help us quite a bit. So I'm excited to see you guys put that together. And I guess you are going to present it to the commissioners as well.
If that's what we need to do, I think in my conversations with Donald, he wanted, at this point, he wanted to make sure that our board was in.
Yeah, my
You know.
personal opinion is there's really no need to because it's an operational thing. It's not
Yeah.
something from a policy standpoint that we have to vote on.
Only if that's something that somebody says we need to do, but otherwise, we
Yeah.
would, if we kind of if y'all just kind of wave your hand over it, or if you want to officially approve it, then we will move forward.
Yeah, I think, I don't see a need of it. We just need to talk to him about that, but I don't see a problem with it. Question, do we have I've got one, it's Verizon hotspot. Do our social workers carry those?
So we have work cell phones that also are hotspots, and they have the hotspot data.
So they can get on their laptop wirelessly through that hotspot?
Yes.
Okay. That's right, we did get them cell phones a few years ago,
We
didn't we?
did, and during COVID, we equipped them all with monitors for home, because most of them have laptops, and so,
Yeah.
Now a lot of them need that extra monitor. So we've equipped them with that, we've equipped them with printers. So they have the technology that is needed.
It's
to be
interesting because,
successful.
back in the day, prior to COVID and prior to Zoom, being out there, when I had a question for my boss, I'd have to call him. We'd have to talk back and forth about it. But now if I'm sitting at my desk, he's at his desk, he's in Charlotte, and I go on Zoom and I hit him up on Zoom and we sit there and talk face to face about something that makes a world of difference in the communication.
And that's what we're looking forward to is when that piece, some of the other changes that the county's doing, when that kind of gets into place to where,
Yep.
that can happen. And I think you're right. I think that will add that extra level of communication that sometimes
Yeah.
doing that on the phone or whatever, it's just nice to be able to look at that person.
Yeah,
and
you would
do
have sit
that.
right there in the home and, dial them up and chat with them. So,
Yeah.
I think specifically the platform that we will be using is Microsoft Teams. And so that will be very helpful once we get that software up and running.
Yeah, we
Yep,
just made
we
the
got
switch
Teams.
to that and have found it to be really helpful in just the live chat features and being able to connect with folks
Yeah.
pretty quickly. The one, I guess, question that I have, especially given that you've supplied all of the technology, is what safeguards do you guys put in place related to HIPAA and confidentiality documents when someone is at home, and/or if they have those documents at home, ensuring that things are then either returning to the office or getting shredded appropriately. Not
Yeah, and those same things that we do that now in a sense. Technically, staff, they're documents that they shouldn't be taking home, and so there's some documents that shouldn't leave the agency. And most of the work that these staff will be doing, it is on their computer, which then, we don't do anymore the. Used to be the
Flash drives.
the flash drives and things like that, and so we don't do those types of.
So this is mostly data entry stuff.
It is
I-
and
Documentation.
It
Yeah,
is.
documentation
Yeah.
going into the system. Yeah.
Most of
Yeah.
that, most of the time that they will spend in that environment would be doing documentation, phone calls, things such as that, reviewing certain things. There's a portion of our staff who do everything online now on the network, and there's a portion that still are using Word to do things. And so, but most of them are going to be using just typing in the computer, which is password protected. It's got all these safeguards.
Do you need a vote on this, or do you just need us to bless it?
If y'all want to approve that request, I think that would be great as a board
Okay.
to do that.
So can somebody give me a motion to approve the alternative work environment we've been discussing?
I'll make the motion.
Need a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion to second that we approve the alternative work environment requests made by Mr. Will Wakefield and Kim Arnett. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. The moment we've all been waiting for. The highlight of the evening. We have our financial report from Mr. Chris Conley, our business manager.
Oh, if that
You look
just
good
were the
tonight, buddy. You
moment we
looking
were all
spiffy
waiting for.
and you look good tonight. You're kind of spiffed up. Your hair looks good.
Thank you,
Mustache
thank
is
you.
all trimmed up.
Yeah, and I shaved my beard a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Mm,
You look
so-
good.
Well,
He has
thank
to
you.
for
You
his
do
fan
too.
club.
Huh?
He has to for his fan
Oh,
club.
that's right. Yeah. I'm his biggest fan.
Okay, our July monthly financial report. As always, the first column of numbers are the revenues received during the month, the bulk of which is always prior year revenues. Actual July revenues are very minimal, but those two together exceeded 1.8 million for the month. The middle column is our receivables, which totaled about 900,000 at the end of July. To the far right of the top half of the page, expenses totaled or exceeded 1.1 million for the month. So we would normally look at the county dollar utilized for the month, but in this case, revenues exceeded expenses by almost $700,000. So all of the prior year revenues that we would expect to receive in July actually came in this year. So we ended the year with a normal 12 months of revenues, which is what you would hope for. The lower half of the page is our comparison of current year to prior year, and so we're only looking at 1 month at this point in the year. Expenses exceeded the prior year total by 113,000, and the bulk of that is the salary increase that just went into effect in January. That alone is about 90 grand a month for us. So, we know that when we get to mid-year, our administrative expenses will have been a lot higher than they were for the first 6 months of fiscal year '22. Revenues were up just a few thousand in the month, and so our county dollar was up about 108,000 for July compared to the previous July. I'll be happy to answer any of the questions related directly to July, or we can just move into our review of fiscal year '22.
Anybody got any questions? You're probably going to cover this, but I assume that 699, that almost 700,000 there was, a lot of that is due to salaries, correct?
Yeah, well,
The overage.
yeah, that's just revenues overall. It exceeded expenses by that amount.
Yeah, okay. Go
But
ahead and
yeah, a
finish
lot
your-
of that is administrative revenues.
Yeah, go ahead and do your year end, and that, you're probably going to answer my question, so go
Okay.
ahead.
I try to keep this simple and provide you with really just the bottom line on all of our numbers. Feel free to pop in with questions if you have them. The top portion of the page lists our expenses and revenues for the year. And of course, the difference is our county portion, and that came in at just over 4.2 million. To the right of those numbers are the actual budgeted expenses and revenues, followed by county portion, and we were allocated almost 5.5 million. So we've returned almost 1.3 million to the county for the prior year. So under that, in the second bullet point, I wanted to draw attention to the fact, okay, we spent about 86% of what we were budgeted. But the revenues we were able to bring in came in at about 90% of what was budgeted. So I say that to highlight that, yeah, our county dollar was, much lower than what we were budgeted for. But sometimes that's not necessarily that we're not spending the money. It's that we're doing a really good job of bringing in the revenues as well, because the expenses are going to be what they're going to be. Your revenues can be here if you don't do the things to maximize them, or they can be a little higher, thus minimizing your county dollar. So that was the purpose of adding that little comment. For recent years, we've had three areas where our savings can really be identified as being the primary areas, and those are administration, child resources, and adult resources. Our administration and operational expenses, we had county dollar savings of about $450,000 in that area, $350,000 of which is directly related to savings in staff expense. However, that $350,000 is as high as it is because we received unbudgeted revenues for food and nutrition services and Medicaid billing for adult protective services staff that totaled $125,000. So that $350,000 would actually only have been $225,000 without that unbudgeted revenue that came in during the year. And the $225,000 is simply due to turnover throughout the year, or you can certainly say the bulk of it is related to turnover. Child resources and adult resources, those are two areas where we just know we've had a little cushion in those two areas in recent years, and we actually decreased some of our expense lines as far as our budget in the new year to kind of offset some of that surplus that we know has been there, particularly with child resources, our foster care spending, because staff have worked so hard and minimized our number of children in foster care. We've just been budgeted for more than what we needed in that area in recent years. The middle of the page is our comparison of fiscal year 22 to 21. I actually want to skip that for the moment, jump down to the little short two-line paragraph that begins with fiscal year 21 revenues, and really more for the benefit of our new board members. And just as a reminder to Donnie and Chapel, at the conclusion of fiscal year 20, we did not receive the final month of administrative revenues in that actual year. They came in August of 2020, thus being put in fiscal year 21. So when we're comparing fiscal year 22 to 21, we're comparing 12 months of revenues to 13 months. That extra month of revenues was $392,000 that went into fiscal year 21. So in recent months, I've been telling you, I think fiscal year 22 will overspend 21 by about $300,000. That was without respect to that 392 of additional money that went into 21. So had that money gone into 2020 rather than 21, we would actually have overspent prior year county dollar by $279,000 in 22 compared to 21. But I mean, in reality, we overspent last year by $672,000. But if you move that 392 to the previous year, then we're at the 279. I know that was probably a little confusing. If you have questions about that, I'll try to explain it
Tells
better.
you really how it throws things off when they're late making payments. It really throws it off for years,
it
doesn't
does.
it? It really does.
And actually, at the end of 21 and 22, the revenues came in late for that final month. However, county finance, rather than waiting to see if auditors would do it, county finance went ahead and put the money in the appropriate year. So as we work through fiscal year 23, we're going to be comparing apples to apples because in 22, we got 12 months of revenue.
That's good.
And so hopefully we can stop all this conversation about, got to remember, we didn't get those revenues in the correct year.
But that's only if they continue to pay us on time.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, we just right back where we started. So
Right.
you guys will get it after a while. It gets a little complicated from time to time.
So, all right, to now kind of go back to that comparison of 21 to 22 or vice versa. In 22, our expenses actually went up almost 1.8 million. But that is mostly due to flow-through funding received for our energy assistance or EA programs and the Lynx program. Those two alone exceeded 1.2 million. And there was a chunk, almost $500,000, related to staff expense increase, again, simply due to the salary study that went into effect in July. So again, revenues were up almost 1.1 million, county dollar up 672,000. Looking at the bottom portion of the page, again, the 279,000 that would have been our actual increase in county dollar, 158 is due to increases in administration and operational expenses, and 111,000 increase in foster care room and board payments, or the county dollar in that area. And that was due more to a loss of revenue because fewer children or youth are eligible for the higher reimbursed source, the 4E funding, and are only eligible for state funding. So although our room and board payments only increased $67,000. Our county dollar increased to $111 because of the reduced revenues. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions at this point.
So the only thing that, well, I shouldn't say the only thing, but one of the biggest things that's important to me is that y'all came in almost $1.3 million under what you budgeted. So, you know, to the citizens out there, that's important to them, that we're, you know, giving money back and we're not just spending because we have it, right?
Yeah.
So many times, we just spend money because we have it. Now, I will say that when we spend money at DSS, it's generally for right reasons, and, you know, that's the thing we have to remember. One of the questions I have for you, and I can't believe I hadn't asked this yet because I used to ask it all the time, how do we end up on the child care, as far as the waiting list, and did we spend all of our money? And
No. This past year, well, really in the past couple years with the pandemic and all the issues that's created around, you know, staffing issues, centers, facilities, all of that, we've not had a waiting list for a long time.
Okay.
We've had plenty of money for childcare. And you know, I was talking with Smart Start, Teresa Branch, about this the other night or a couple weeks ago. Mainly the issue at this point is we have people who can come in and be eligible. They can't find a slot for their child. So right now, and for a good while, we have plenty of funding, and there's plenty of funding out there, and I think the state is even setting aside more funding. The problem is those centers being able to maintain enough staff and have enough available capacity to take those children. So right now, it's totally flip-flopped.
Right.
To where that's
I thought
the
that
issue.
was the case, but I wanted you to
Yeah.
explain it.
So yeah, and so we've been kind of putting it out there as, yes, we've had that funding and we have that funding. It's really a matter of, is there capacity?
So in other words, anybody watching, if they have an interest in starting a daycare center, you're trying to say we need some?
I think that would
We
be
could use
great
them.
if they can find the staff to then staff it.
Good
is-
point, yes.
is the
Yes.
issue.
So,
Yeah.
Anybody got any questions for Chris? For the new people, you'll realize how smart this guy is, right? I mean, most of what he was just talking about, he was talking about off the top of his head. When he was talking about numbers from 2 years ago, there ain't no notice down here anywhere that reminds him of that. So we're very blessed to have Chris running our finance department there at DSS. He's a very talented individual, and I mean that sincerely. And I don't know what we do without you, because
your support and
none of us can figure it out. So we count on you to do it for us. I'd hate to have to see Will over there trying to handle those numbers.
yeah,
He
we won't make him do
cringes when I
that.
come to his office because he knows I'm gonna ask some crazy question.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my gosh.
But he truly is I mean, there's probably not a number he can't calculate in his head. So if you ever get a chance to spend time with him, it's pretty interesting to watch him work these numbers. So thank you again, my friend, for all you do.
Thank you for your support.
Thanks.
All right, next on our agenda is the director's report, Mr. Will Wakefield.
All right, there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about and then throw in a couple of updates. I will say at the moment, they don't want me to say this, but we're doing okay with our staffing, and I'm knocking on wood. So we're moving well with that. I will mention, as Mitch was saying, with his retirement, that we have hired this individual who was his lead person, C.V. Morris, will be taking over and leading our child support unit. So we are certainly glad for that. I wanted to mention that, we at the agency have been looking and brainstorming some ideas around how we can continue to support our staff and support them, whether it's work-related, whether it's stuff that happens outside of work. We know that all of us, when we come to work, there are challenges that we have within our work, but there are challenges that we have outside of work that impact, us at work. And so we met, I asked Tracy and Jill if they would come and kind of do some brainstorming with us the other week, because they both work and have worked for many years in the mental health industry. And so what we wanted to do was really kind of brainstorm some different ways that we, within our agency and within the county, could create some strategies to assist our staff that were on kind of a scale of things that were simple, things that were easy, all the way up to what the county offers when it comes to employee assistance programs and counseling and those types of things. And we have those, and we have staff who utilize those. And it's important that staff utilize those programs. But I think sometimes there are staff who, there's kind of a stigma sometimes for people attached to going to counseling or going to the employee assistance program. And at the same time, we also, we would like to have a range of strategies. So again, maybe someone, they just need a little bit of help. They just need a little bit of something to release some stress. And so last week, I think it was last week or week before last, we got together, kind of went over some ideas. And so we're just starting to formulate that, but we want to create a kind of a continuum of care, so to speak, and multiple strategies to work with staff. So we're going to continue to do that and also be in conversation with the county as we do that about what are some other strategies and opportunities, because we know that as we take care of our staff and help them take care of the things that they struggle with, again, whether it's work, inside work or outside work, then that helps them. And we know at the same time, I hate to say, but that helps us as a county and as an agency as well. And so that's something that we are really, really working towards at this point in time. One of the things that you heard about last month and we talked a little bit about was our agency vehicles and our designation on those vehicles and being able to utilize those with some of our older youth and going to pick up some of those youth at schools and trying to do that in a way that maybe doesn't bring as much attention. And so we had some conversations about that and talked with county staff about that. And so we have moved forward with purchasing. We're going to be purchasing some magnetized, our new, we need to do our agency vehicles. We need to have our new county seal on there anyway. We haven't done that yet. So as we replace those, we are going to have some of those that are magnets and basically utilize those when we need to do some of the transportation around those children. One thing that I learned that I was not aware of was that there are actually some statutes out there around counties in having designation on your vehicle, where you actually are required to have designation on your vehicle. But there are some stipulations in certain circumstances, and so we think we found so that in those situations where we transport some of those older youth, that we can manage that and take care of that. So I did want to follow up with you on that and just let you know that we're moving forward with some of those plans. I also wanted to follow up with you on we talked last month about our concern over what we call the 75-25 enhanced Medicaid rate and our concern about losing some revenue in that area. And so Chris has been in some training around that. We have been working with our state partners around interpretation of some of the new guidelines and policies around it. We're not there yet. Counties are we're still kind of in the dark to a certain degree, and there's some ambiguity around the interpretation of how we implement some of this. So we're still kind of figuring it out, and we don't have to have it figured out yet. Come October, we do. Chris and I participated with 5 other counties about a week and a half or so ago. There were several of us directors in our area who said, let's get together and talk about it, because this is really confusing, and let's, what are y'all doing? How are y'all looking at this? How do you interpret it? So directors and our business officers, we got together. It was us, Burke, Alexander, Catawba, Lincoln, Cleveland, might have been, Gaston. And so we pulled together and met and talked, and we kind of figured out what we knew, and that is that we were all still confused about that and still needed some further direction. And so we met for about 2 hours, and I kind of took our notes, and we talked about kind of our points that we felt we needed some more clarity on. And so I sent pulled that together and sent a letter to Susan Osborne, who is our assistant secretary for one of the assistant secretaries for DHHS, who we work with, and just kind of let her know that, hey, if we're all still struggling with these counties, then I know everybody else is too. And so she responded and said that they would take those points and would respond back to us and work on clarifying some of that. Currently there are meetings, I think, twice a week that our business staff can sit in on that are statewide meetings, and we're still gathering information about it. What I will tell you is we know, and I think I mentioned this last time, we know we're going to take hits to our revenue. The question is, right now, at best case scenario, it could be just under $100,000. At what we think is worst case scenario, for this year, that could get up to $150,000 a hit in our revenue. And so we don't, that's, we don't like that. That's not what we like to see. At the same time, we know that we've been doing well, as Chris just talked to you about, within our budget, and we know we can, we can deal with that within our budget, but we also want to make sure that we do it in a way and that counties aren't running scared to the point where we are too conservative in how we handle the coding of this funding, so that counties don't run too scared and end up losing revenue and maybe in areas where we don't have to. And that was a part of my concern that I shared, was when counties are not clear, then typically, to avoid getting in trouble, having audits and all that where you pay back, then the pendulum, we swing it too far. And
Take a safe route.
yeah, but then we end up not necessarily bringing in the revenues maybe that we should be. So
Yep.
so we're still working on that, and that is still a process that we're in, and we're not there yet. But we're still working on it, and we are certainly pushing with our partners to make sure that we get the information that we need so we can make good decisions. So I did want to kind of let you know where we are with that at this point in time. And again, I will continue to update you and follow up with you on that.
All right, anybody got any questions for Will? All right, next, we're going to be blessed with the presence of Miss Kim Arnett with Children's Services and Adult Highlights. Always good to see you.
Good to see you too. So I'll just real quickly say our numbers in both of our areas, our child services and our adult services, were very, very close to last month. So we're not a lot of change there. So I'm not going to go through each individual line item or each statistic unless you have a specific question about one of those. So I will talk just a minute about our Lynx program. Last month, Tanya Machia came and talked to you all about what Lynx is and what we're hoping to achieve in the county. So on August the 16th, I don't know if you remember, but she talked about a Lynx Kickoff that we were going to host. And we did that, and it turned out to be very successful. We had approximately 20 youth attend that kickoff. We had some staff from Rutherford County DSS help with that event. We've really reached out to Rutherford County. They have a long-standing Lynx program that's been very successful, so we've reached out to them a lot for guidance on how to get started. Also, SAYSO, which is a statewide association of youth ages 14 to 24, came to the kickoff, and they talked a lot about what they do as far as advocate for policy change, and this is part of the initiative of getting the seals removed from cars came from SAYSO. And so SAYSO, like I said, is statewide, but they also have local chapters. And so we've reached out to them to come and talk to our youth and get our youth excited about participating in their organization. And so there was a few youth there that verbalized wanting to be part of starting a local chapter. And so we'll continue on with that and see where that goes. But it was a very successful event. I think there were lots of our social workers who attended that, not just our permanency social workers, but some of our investigators attended, just because that's something, it's a very enjoyable process, very enjoyable event. And so we don't get to do a lot of those things. A lot of times we're so busy doing the day-to-day work that we have to do, we don't get to enjoy those times. And so we did have several who came and attended that. And I think the youth also enjoyed it. They got treat bags, they got gift cards from Say So. Part of Lynx is as part of Lynx incentives, they get gift cards for doing certain things. And so we were able to give some gift cards to them. They played some games. We heard from one of the members of Say So was able to get up and tell her story, and she's quite young, and I think she's over 18, but she's still very young. And so she was able to get up and tell her story, which I think, I was watching some of the youth as she was talking, hoping that, it helped them feel a sense of inclusion, that they're not the only one who's gone through some of the things that they've gone through. So I thought that was very interesting. But we hope to continue that. We're really hoping to do monthly events and collaborating with our surrounding counties to do those. And so we're not the only ones hosting them, but we can maybe move around into the different counties to have those events, because our children are placed, across the state, literally. And so if we can move some of those events around, some of the folks from where they're placed further away can participate. And we also are linking up some of our youth who are placed in other counties, trying to link those youth up with that local DSS in their Lynx program. And so that's something that we've been working on too.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great report. Anybody got any questions?
Thank you.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is going to be Family Support Services highlights from Mr. Will Wakefield.
Brandy has taken some vacation this week, so I'm filling in for her. Just the one thing I wanted to mention was that August was our Economic Services Appreciation Month, and so Brandy and her staff kind of put some things together so that we could recognize our economic services staff and all of those different programs. So they took a week, and each day during that week, whether a lot of times it involved food, drinks, maybe some door prizes, some of those types of things, and just recognize those staff for the work that they do. And those staff enjoyed that and had a good time doing it. So as we go throughout the year, whether it's Economic Services Appreciation Month or Social Work Month, or we have a month for accounting, and we try to hit everybody within the agency at different times throughout the year. And so in August, that was what we did. And so they had a good time with that, and I think our staff enjoyed that. It's been busy within our economic services. I think within our food nutrition program, we've seen a lot of applications come through, and so folks are really, they're busy trying to keep up with that and get those done. And we also completed a few audits, and those went well. So they were pleased with their work there. And if you've got any questions, I'll be happy to.
Did we beat the $12?
We've not gotten to the end of that audit
Okay.
yet, but at the moment we're hanging in there. I don't want to mess that up.
I understand.
But, we'll keep
Anybody
at it.
got any questions? So that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting. Our next board meeting will be on Tuesday, September 27th at 5 o'clock here in the Allen East Orange building. Just want to thank you guys for joining us, and thank our staff for, you guys continue to amaze me every day what you do and what you deal with. And it's a pleasure to work with you, and it's an honor to be a part of this organization. So please take back our appreciation to your staff and tell them how much we appreciate what they do every day. So I'm anxious to see how our alternative work environment, I'm anxious to see how that plays out. I'm kind of excited. I think that's going to be a good thing for us. And so thank you again, Will, for you guys for putting that together and bringing that to us. So with that, anybody got any questions or comments they'd like to make? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed. Motion carries. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you for joining us.